Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And during the first parts of the video we're going to discuss the situation in Ukraine. According to information we have, according to media, yesterday the Ukrainians once again attacked the theater of Russia using hundreds of drones. The pro-Ukrainian sources claim that the Ukrainians used 280 drones to attack deep inside of the theater of Russia. And as you can see, once again, according to this map, the Ukrainians once again attacked in the northern direction. I would like to remind you that during the previous days, the Ukrainians, when attacking in the same direction, managed to deal significant damage to objects of energy infrastructure of the Russian Federation in the Leningrad region. The Ukrainians attacked the settlement of Ust-Luga, more precisely its ports infrastructure, and according to information we have, during the previous night, the Ukrainians once again attacked the same territory. And in these pictures and in these videos we can see the consequences of the recent attack of the previous night's attack. So it seems that the Ukrainians once again managed to break through the Russian air defense forces and to damage the Ust-Luga oil refineries and oil infrastructure. So furthermore, today we received fresh satellite pictures where we can see the differences between before the first attack and right after the first attack that took place 2 days ago. So as you can see, according to these pictures, this object of energy infrastructure was damaged significantly. It seems that more than 50% of these reservoirs were completely destroyed, and we don't know for sure whether the rest were just damaged or also were completely destroyed. Furthermore, we received a report that the Ukrainians also attacked the settlement of Primorsk. So these two, let's say, strategical areas of the Russian Federation were attacked by the Ukrainians overnight. Furthermore, according to information we have, another batch of drones moved in the northeastern direction, and pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian sources confirm that the Ukrainians overnight attacked the city of Chernipovets. And as for this settlement, the Ukrainians, according to information we have, attacked the Chernipovets chemical plant, also one of the most important and biggest plants on the territory of the Russian Federation. In these videos we can see the consequences of attack probably first seconds after drones attack these territories. It seems that the Russians have problems with air defense protection, especially in the northern parts of Russia, to the north of the city of Moscow, around the Leningrad region, around Pskov region, and around Tver region, and so on. The Russians during the night reported that they managed to destroy lots of drones, but it seems that the Russians haven't destroyed every single one. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the territory of Ukraine. During the previous nights we received lots of very interesting updates. The Russians attacked the territory of Ukraine as well, and this morning the Minister of Defense of Ukraine stated that overnight the Russians used 102 drones to attack objects of critical infrastructure in Ukraine. So as you can see, the Ukrainians used 280 drones and the Russians used just 102 drones. So the Ukrainians used let's say 2.5 times more drones than the Russians. As for the Russian side, we received reports that the Russians attacked the city of Chernihiv. Here we can see that a factory plant was damaged by the Russians. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians attacked the city of Dnipro. Here we have a video where we can see how the Russian drone was flying over the city trying to attack some objects on the territory of the settlement. Furthermore, we received reports that the Russians once again attacked the city of Kryvyi Rog, and many other different towns and settlements were attacked by Russians. But the most important video is coming from the Zaporizhzhia area, from the settlement of Vasilivskaya. This video was published this morning by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how the Russians, as a result of a reconnaissance operation, managed to discover 2 Patriot systems and 1 radar. So let's discuss. So as you can see, according to this video, there were 2 Patriot systems and 1 radar and an MPQ-53. And when the Russians discovered this position, the Russians began bombing and attacking this theater with drones. So as of the beginning of the 27th of March of 2026, it's impossible, of course, to understand whether the Russians attacked real Patriot position, real equipment, or the Russians attacked decoys. Very difficult to understand. Some sources are saying that there were decoys that the Russians attacked, but several sources stated that indeed, as a result of this attack, the Russians destroyed 2 launchers and the radar. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 24 hours, during the previous night, we received lots of updates from the Zaporizhzhia direction. As you can see, the map has been adjusted once again. We have huge dynamic during the previous days. More precisely, we just clarified the infiltration zone. So currently there are several lines, several zones. There are territories that are under strong control either of the Russians or the Ukrainians. Then we have infiltration zones, and we have contested area, which according to different sources either under the strong control of the Russian forces or under the strong control of the armed forces of Ukraine. As for the previous 24 hours, we expanded the infiltration zones in the eastern Zaporizhzhia direction and in the northern Zaporizhzhia direction, where the Ukrainians continue their Zaporizhzhia counteroffensive operation. First, let's talk about the eastern Zaporizhzhia direction. So these are the changes on the ground. Once again, I would like to point to attention that this is not the expand of the gray zone. This is the expansion of the infiltration zone, which is a bit different situation. So according to neutral mappers, according to different sources, during the previous days, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly between the settlements of Verkhnya Tersa, Gulyai-Polskaya, and Novoselovskaya. So we're not saying that these territories are under complete control of Russians or the Russians have strong control over these territories. We're just trying to pay your attention that the Russian soldiers that are keeping advancing further in the western direction, trying to block and to cut the main supply lines, the main logistic lines, to create ambush, to make ambushes, to mine fields and the most important lines that the Ukrainians use for logistic purposes and so on. Furthermore, we received reports about another infiltration area to the south and southeast and east of the city of Gulyai-Polskaya. Basically, the Russians with sabotage and reconnaissance groups managed to get to the outskirts of the settlement of Gulyai-Polskaya, and probably the Russians have already begun entering the settlement of Gulyai-Polskaya itself under the cover of night or something like this. At the same time, I would like to point your attention that there are still positions of the armed forces of Ukraine to the east, somewhere in this area, but the Russians currently have possibilities to outflank and to bypass these territories and to move further and deeper inside of the main positions of the armed forces of Ukraine. The same situation we can see from the Ukrainian side, but in the Uspenovka direction or in the northern Zaporizhzhia direction. These are the changes on the ground between the dates. For example, this is the end of the 25th of March, this is the end of the 26th of March, and this is the beginning of the 27th of March. We have added additional infiltration areas according to different sources. The Ukrainians, as you can see, are keeping advancing in the southern direction using the tactics that the Russians created. So the Ukrainians are trying to probably began using everything that the Russians were using in 2025 with infiltration groups, with sabotage and reconnaissance forces. The Ukrainians are trying to use the same tactics, but the Ukrainians from their side are also trying to improve these tactics, because Ukrainians, in comparison with Russians, have the most important and necessary technology for these sabotage and reconnaissance operations. We are talking about Starlink terminals. The Ukrainians most likely have less problems with the communication, which means that Ukrainians have more possibilities to understand the current situation on the ground. Furthermore, we received this video from the area of villages Stepovo and Berezova. In this video, we can see how Russians were bombing and attacking either positions of sabotage of another sabotage and reconnaissance group, or the Russians were attacking a stronghold that was under the control of the armed forces of Ukraine. Anyway, based on this video, we have adjusted everything to the north. As you can see, there used to be a very big gray zone in this area, and the territory is under control of Russian Federation, but currently we have additional changes. According to them, it seems that the Ukrainians indeed managed to recapture these territories, and the Ukrainians are keeping advancing further in the southern direction. At the same time, the clashes for the settlement of Ternova continue. During the previous days, we received lots of updates exactly from this area. It seems that the Russians, after they were forced to fall back from this area, regrouped on the line between the settlements of Zaporizhzhia, Novogeorgievka and Kamyshevacha, and now the Russians began their counter-offensive operation with the purpose to restore control over the settlements of Ternovat and Berezova. And during the previous days, we received lots of changes in this area. The changes are very small, but these changes are telling us that most likely currently there are very heavy clashes for the settlement, and that's the Ukrainians began suffering first problems in this region. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Dobropolye direction, where the infiltration zone was also expanded. So this is the end of the 26th of March and this is the beginning of the 27th of March. The Russians are keeping advancing further in the northwestern direction, and as you can see, first sabotage and reconnaissance groups managed to get the settlements of Sergeyevka, Mirnaya, Vasilievka, Novoalexandrovka. Many villages and towns in this area were already abandoned by the armored forces of Ukraine, and we see that the Russian Dobropolye offensive operation is gaining momentum. Furthermore, today we received from several sources that for the first time for a very long period of days, the Russians began bombing and attacking the M30 road between the cities of Pokrovsk and Dnipro. So the Russians haven't been bombing this territory for a very long period of time, maybe due to problems with Starlink equipment and so on, but these days the Russians resume their attacks on this logistic line, trying to reduce the Ukrainian logistic capabilities. Furthermore, we received additional changes on the ground in the area of the settlement of Belitske. During the previous night, this video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation through the eastern parts of the settlement of Belitske. Based on these videos, we have adjusted the map. So this is the end of the 26th of March, and this is the beginning of the 27th of March, and we see that the Russians currently control up to 20% of the settlement, and the Russians are keeping advancing. As for the Ukrainian positions, they control the most important part of the settlement, the central and the western citadels, so which means that there are still very heavy clashes ahead of us. As for the Slaviansk direction, during the previous 24 hours, during the previous night, nothing special was recorded. As for the Liman direction, nothing special was recorded as well. As for the northern directions, the Russians, according to information we have, managed to improve their positions significantly along the border. I would like to remind you that just yesterday, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation and the group of forces north confirmed that Russians, as a result of clashes, established complete control over the settlement by the name of Shevyakovka. This morning, this information was confirmed by several pro-Russian sources, and also several pro-Russian sources clarified the situation on the ground. So as you can see, the Russians managed to establish complete control over the settlement itself, and the Russians managed to secure the territory around. As for the conflict on Ukraine, we have covered most of the updates. Now let's discuss the situation in Russia. According to information we have, Bloomberg reports that the largest port of Primorsk has already resumed oil shipments following yesterday's attack by the Ukraine armed forces. So as you can see, yesterday they restored, and during the previous night, overnight, the Ukrainians attacked this infrastructure once again. The Russian gas carrier Arctic Meta gas was attacked by 2 drones and 3 unmanned boats, the Russian investigative committee stated. It has been established that on March 3, 2026, while en route from the port of Murmansk to China, off the coast of Malta, the Russian vessel, which was carrying liquid gas, was attacked by at least 2 unmanned aerial vehicles and at least 3 unmanned boats equipped with explosive devices. The attack resulted in significant damage to the vessel. According to the investigation committee, it's still unknown who exactly is standing behind this attack. Another important thing that the President approved proposals to protect shipping. These measures are already being implemented. That was stated by Patrushev. Other statements by the head of the Maritime Board. The Russian Navy is involved in ensuring the safety of shipping. Russian flagged ships can request escort by mobile fire groups through port captains. The gas carrier Arctic Metagas, which was previously attacked by Ukrainian Navy drones, is drifting southeast of the Italian coast. So as you can see, the Patrushev stated that the Ukrainians were behind this attack. Putin is making 760 millions a day from oil as war in Iran delivers windfall. Revenues from the sale of Russian oil and gas in March are expected to double. So the Western countries are afraid of the situation because, according to their understanding, the Russians will use this money to finance the conflict on the territory of Ukraine for more months or even maybe years. Russia is making windfall profits from fertilizer exports as well, Financial Times reports. Russia dominates the global fertilizer market even more than it does the oil and gas markets. It accounts for 23% of global ammonia exports, 14% of urea exports, and together with Belarus, 40% of potash fertilizer exports. And this is the most important thing because, according to information we have, Trump lifted sanctions against the Belarusian Minister of Finance, Belinvest Bank, the Development Bank of the Republic, and Belarus Kali. So we see that very interesting steps were made by the United States of America to strengthen positions of both Russia and its allies. As for the United States of America, it seems that the ground operation is imminent. According to information we have, the USA will launch a ground operation against Iran. The decision has been made according to the American press. Iran has already mobilized around 1 million people preparing for war. Judging by the constant escalations, some Middle East countries will side with the United States of America. Most likely we're talking about the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. The Pentagon is planning to deploy up to 10,000 additional ground troops to the Middle East to give Trump more military options, even as peace talks with Tehran is being explored. Trump extended his strike deadline to Iran's energy infrastructure by 10 more days to April 6, saying that the extension was at Iran's request. Peace talk mediators say Iran did not ask for the additional time. So it seems that the ground operation is not ready yet, so that is why the President of the United States of America, by this statement, by extension of the Iran's energy, by extension of strikes deadline on Iran's energy infrastructure hit, the President of the United States of America was trying to stabilize the market, oil market, as he did on Monday this week. If you remember, the prices for oil on Monday, on the 23rd of March of 2026, were more than $100 per barrel for WTI. And when the President of the United States of America announced the energy ceasefire, the prices for oil dropped significantly. But later and during the week, the prices continue growing. And for example, on the 27th of March of 2026, the oil prices once again reached the barrier of $100 per barrel when talking about WTI. So, which means that the President of the United States of America, by the statement that he is going to postpone the attacks on the Ukraine's energy infrastructure, was trying to stabilize the market. But according to the data about the oil prices we're receiving, we see that this time these statements didn't help the President of the United States of America to do this, which means that the United States of America doesn't have any other option to stabilize the oil market but to begin the ground operation. But obviously everybody understands that if ground operation starts, then most likely the oil prices can grow up to $200 per barrel, and this is most likely is going to be the worst nightmare for the President of the Ukraine, Zelensky, because he will understand that Russians will be able to finance the war on the territory of the state for many more years. And furthermore, this is going to be a very good situation for the Iranians as well, because currently they control the Strait of Hormuz by themselves. Nobody can do anything with this. Iran is tightening control over the Strait of Hormuz, forcing ships to share detailed data, reroute into its water, and sometimes pay for passage, creating what analysts call a toll booth system. And that's it for the short video. The Military Summary channel reminds you to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.